Welcome. It is Monday night, which means it is time once again for Monday Night Nerd. It has been a good Monday, and I'm so thankful to be here on the podcast. I'm so thankful for you folks on TikTok tuning in. Akari, you are here, first in line, ready for all the fun. Tonight, we are going to be talking all about cosplay and Halloween, because if you're a cosplayer, it's probably the way you started your love of cosplay. I think it's sort of across the board that the first time we all kind of cosplayed was at Halloween. And we're going to talk about that and how it all started. And yes, folks, as I showed in the thumbnail, I do have some embarrassing photos here for everyone to see, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. It has been a pretty fun weekend. I was getting some stuff done around the house, getting some stuff finished. Finally finished the project for my wife, her bookshelves. You'll be seeing that on Instagram in the next day or two. Also working on some new video content for you guys. I've got about 3 or 4 that I shot last night that I'm going to be editing and putting them up on my YouTube page, as well as some new shorts, especially for you guys on TikTok. I have some new shorts of a trend that's going on right now. So if you don't have me on TikTok, you should hop over to TikTok, find Corp Cosplay, and add me, because they're getting videos over there that you guys are not getting anywhere else. What else can we talk about before we get into the news? Has anything happened? Not much, really. It's, like I said, just a lot of video content, getting that project done. I got a busy week at work. However, I have an extra long weekend ahead of me. I have Friday and Monday off, which means I got a lot to do around here. I got to start figuring out some cosplay stuff for next year. I'm doing some 3D prints for a friend, so I got to work on those. It has been a fun week, and we got a lot of stuff going on. Thank you all for tuning in. Let's jump into the news, because it has been a pretty, not a busy news week, but it's been some interesting topics. Let's talk about something that we haven't really discussed here on the podcast, but my buddies over the Geeks & Co. had a discussion / argument about a couple episodes ago, and we're going to talk about AI a bit here. I have some very strong opinions about AI that we're not going to get into on the podcast, because it'll turn into a big giant discussion. But I do want to bring this up because it is something that is kind of, I don't want to say breaking the internet, but it is something that a lot of people did not think would happen. Matthew McConaughey and Michael Caine have teamed up with an AI audio company, 11 Labs, to produce virtual replications of their famous voices. And this came out from a Variety article. Matthew McConaughey is an investor in the company, 11 Labs. The whole point of this is McConaughey has a newsletter that he does called Lyrics of Livin', where he just talks about poetry and a whole bunch of stuff that he's into. And he's realized that a lot of the world doesn't speak English. Famously, I remember watching a video about Mr. Beast talking about his other channels, not just his English channels. And he was saying, we put my voice through an AI translator and they reproduce all of the different languages around the world. Well, it looks like Hollywood has kind of taken this and is maybe going to be using AI in that way. So Matthew McConaughey has officially signed up for this, and so has Mr. Michael Caine. Specifically, they'll be doing the Spanish language version, the audio version of his newsletter. This is very interesting news, because at the same time, Mr. Morgan Freeman came out this week and said he does not want his voice to be used in AI and is going to do his best to fight it. As I said, I'm not going to get into too much of the discussion about AI, because, again, this will be a completely different podcast topic that we could spend hours talking about. But I will tell you one thing, as someone who works in marketing on a daily basis and has worked in marketing for over a decade, I will tell you this: technology is undefeated. So that kind of says where my mind is when it comes to AI. I don't say I agree with it, but technology is undefeated, so do with that what you will. By the way, it is good to see Mr. Boomster Joe, Pretty Nerdy Crystal, Marcy, and the rest of you all in the chat. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're a fan of amazing horror movies, Mr. The family and friends at Asylum Productions are getting ready to bring out Sharknado 7, folks. There have been 7 Sharknados. You'd think after the 6th one, You would figure out not to be near Tornado Alley or wherever these. I haven't seen any of them since the first one, and the first one was corny as hell. So Asylum has said that they're going to be making a prequel. We will have Sharknado Origins, which Origins as the tagline for a movie is just as fun as The New Generation, because you just know it's a quality movie if that's the tagline for it. Because I mean, Wolverine Origins was so good. It is going to be a completely new cast. It is going to take place before the first one. Like I said, I haven't seen the first. I've seen the first one, but I haven't seen anything else since. I got a pretty good idea about this one is going to be. It is going to be a bunch of sharks who get whipped up in a tornado. Haven't we said enough after 6? Like, how many? We've only had 5 Jaws movies, but four. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've had 4 Jaws movies, but we've had 7 Sharknado movies. I don't get it, but hey, you know what? A couple of the cast members did come to some local cons here, and they did very well. So I might be in the minority of not being a giant Sharknado fan, but there are definitely people who are giant Sharknado fans. So good for them. They're eyeing for 2026 release date. So good for them. Justin Smith in chat says Resurrection or Origins are red flags. What? Alien Origin or Alien Resurrection was such a good movie. Why would you want that? No. That just gave so much life to the franchise. Yeesh. Let's jump over to video game news. As always, I give you a little bit of an update here of what I have been playing, and boy, am I still loving Power Washer Simulator. I've been playing that like crazy. Number 2 has been a lot of fun. It has been very good to just, veg on the couch for a few hours and just throw on a podcast or some lo-fi music and just relax and power wash. My wife has been sitting there watching me laughing, going, I just don't understand it. And I completely get it. I completely understand that this whole power washing simulator or train simulator or all these other things, it's not for everybody, but man, it is such a nice, just relaxing game to play. So I'm so enjoying it. However, Steam has come out of the woodwork for something that I did not think was needed. Valve, the makers of the popular Steam Deck handheld PC gaming console, is launching a new video game hardware called the Steam Machine. It is a 6-inch cube gaming console meant for stationary play versus the portable Steam Deck, which you could walk around with. And the Steam Deck will also have a controller and work with the VR headset. Cool. My question is, who is this for? Because if you're a Steam player, you probably have a pretty good PC setup. If you're a console gamer, you've probably heard of Steam, and if you haven't jumped yet, I don't know if a console is going to make you jump. I don't think that's the wall of like, I'd really like to play Steam games, but I just want to play it on my TV. Because, by the way, folks, we have the technology that you could just plug a PC into your TV at this point, and you can just play the PC on what is actually a giant monitor. It's weird. It's a weird choice. I even remember, like, I've been with my wife for over a decade, and at least 15 years ago, one of my ex-girlfriends, her ex, had a PC that he figured out how to, it basically became a DVR, and she had it, and I loved it. But after like a couple years, I was like, oh, it's just a PC. Like, anybody can do this. 15 years later, it's even easier at this point. So I don't know who this is for. Let me see what we got in chat. Boomster Joe says maybe they're for people who want to play Steam games that don't have a PC. I guess, but I figure that that's a very small amount of people that they want to put this much time and effort to make a console. And again, this is one thing that is getting a lot of people's, back of their hair going up. They haven't released a price point yet. No one has said if this is going to be if this is going to be $100 console, is this going to be a $500 console, is it going to be $1,000 console? So I think that is going to be the big difference, is what are we going to do when it comes to price point, because that's a big window. And if you're already having to pay $500 to $700 for a PS5, I don't know if you want to drop that on another console. Shinobi says, I'm tempted, just depends on the price. Yeah, don't have a PC worth a damn at the moment. I get that, and I get, but I just don't understand why. Again, I don't think there's enough people that will make this worth their while. I feel like there's enough people that have Steam have a PC setup. Like, there are a few, obviously, we have a couple in chat, but I just don't see enough people that are like, I just want this, I'd rather have a console. So, again, I'm not a Steam player, I'm a PS5 player, but maybe there's people out there who want this. I just don't see it being enough to make it worth your while to make a whole console with it, but who knows? The only other thing I want to talk about today was someone sent this over to me because they thought I'd be interested in it, and they thought I'd be interested mostly because I'm a wrestling fan and I'm a rock fan, but Moana, the live action movie, has released a teaser trailer today, and just like all the live action Disney movies, I say it again, why? Why do we need this? Especially a movie like Moana that I'm pretty sure most people have seen at this point. Like, I think most people from like age 2 to 20,000 have seen this movie by now and have seen it recently. So why do we need another version of it that's a live action? This is the one thing that's always confused me about this entire idea of a live action Disney World, is why are we remaking the original movies that are amazing animated movies? Because with animation, and I've done animation classes, I draw all the time. We're going to talk about that later. I used to draw. I loved doing animation growing up. The amount of overexpression and exaggeration you can get in the animation is such a great part of it. And you've probably all seen them online of people doing a pause in the middle of, a big action moment, and the characters are all overstretched and it looks hilarious. Well, that's what makes it so amazing and so big and grand, is because you can do that with animation. You can't really do that with actors. You can to a point if they're all Jim Carrey, but not a lot of actors can pull that off, especially with movies like Moana, where the main character is kind of a kid. Like, it's not really, it's not a well-trained 50-year actor who knows what to do with their body and knows how to, bring those animations to life. The trailer looks fine, like just like every other one, where I'm like, yeah, it's basically the original teaser in live action. And like, I just don't understand. If they were going to do live action and they're like, we want to do live action, but we want to do the next one, like we want to do Moana 3, I think they're on now, fine. I get it. Go for it. Have fun. But redoing something like that is so well known and everyone has seen it recently and everyone loves it, I don't know. At least with the older ones, I can kind of see it where I'm like, it might bring new life to it. Like doing Lady and the Tramp. I was like, okay, there's a lot of people who don't know the story of Lady and the Tramp. I'm interested. I get the idea of wanting to bring the classics back to a new audience. I just don't see it for something this new, but maybe that's me. My nose is super itchy tonight. I got to stop doing cocaine. Yeah, that's kind of it for that. I won't see it. I don't think I've ever. I'm trying to think. Have I seen? I know I saw Jungle Book. I think that's it. I don't think I've seen a single other one. So maybe I'll watch the clips when it comes out on Disney Plus, and I'll see like how Rock looks as. I was gonna say Rafiki. It's not Rafiki. The big guy. Anyways, yeah. I'm not gonna watch it. Sorry Disney. I'm like a lot of old school fans. I'm just like, I don't get it, but whatever. Maui. There we go. That's it. Brain kicked in. Okay, That's it for the news, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I appreciate it. If you can hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all those things. TikTok, if you can hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow and all that. We do this every single Monday night on YouTube, where you can comment and you can ask questions and be a part of the discussion. Or if you just want to watch, you can hop on TikTok and watch it there. Sponsor, as always, folks, you know, it's my beautiful, loving, amazing, incredible wife. She is always my sponsor. I love her. We've been together for so many years, and she has made me a better person. I say it every single week, but you know it's true. If you've ever met her, you know how much she means to me. She is my wife. I love you, hun. You're the greatest. I can't wait to see you. Tonight, she is out enjoying anime with her friends, because that's what they do every once in a while. And I'm not an anime fan, so she goes to other people's houses and enjoys anime. All right, folks, let's jump into this main event of the evening. Cosplaying and Halloween. Cosplay and Halloween. As I said at the beginning, I think this is something that we as cosplayers can all agree that this is kind of where we first got that feeling of loving cosplay and loving dressing up as our favorite characters. I remember when I was working at Toys R Us, and most retailers who do Halloween costumes probably run into this. You get a new shipment every Halloween of whatever the popular costume is. So you'd get your Frozen costumes one year, and then the next year you'd get, I don't know, Moana, or you'd get something else. And if those Frozen costumes didn't sell, what do you do with them? Like, after Halloween's over, there's not really a time to, what do you do with them? And I remember working at Toys R Us, and we had boxes and boxes of different costumes, from, you know, the generic ones like a ninja or something like that, to the, you know, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, everything. And they would sit in the back and collect dust until next Halloween. And then once next Halloween came out, like just before we got the new stuff, we'd throw out the old stuff and we put it at dirt cheap prices. And I'm like, guys, why don't we make like an 8-foot section and put these out and sell them? Like, yeah, it's not Halloween, but you're telling me some kid wouldn't want like a Wolverine costume or a Power Ranger costume or something? The girls have the princess dresses and they sell great all year long. Why don't we do that, not just with the boys, but everybody? Like, why don't we just leave these out, and maybe we can inspire cosplayers and get kids to wear costumes all year long? Why not? Who cares? And they never went for it. It just sat in the back all the time. So I think it would have been a great idea to do something like that. And I know that because when I was a kid, I got my Halloween costumes every single year, and I was so excited to wear them. I would try my best to wear them before Halloween, but probably didn't get a lot of that opportunity because I didn't want to ruin them, because we couldn't afford more than one. And then after, I would try and wear it more after. Like, I clearly remember going through like old totes of a couple, like I had a couple small totes of toys at my mom's place. And when I moved out, I remember going through a couple of them that were just in storage. And like, there were pieces of old costumes still in there that I still had because I enjoyed wearing them. So I think a lot of us have that nostalgia of being a kid and getting those costumes and loving wearing them. And it all started in Halloween. And when I grew up, I think a lot of this costume cosplay DIY mentality from my mom, because my mom would sew me and make me a bunch of costumes when I grew up. It wasn't until I got to, I would say 7, 8, 9, around older kid age, I would want some things that were just so stupidly hard to make that we would go and buy them. And we're going to talk about those a little later. We're going to go through a couple of my Halloween costumes. I'm going to tell you some stories about it, some ways, you know, that they've kind of helped me with my cosplay and kind of gave me ideas. We're going to talk about some of my older costumes when I got to be an older kid, and then we're going to talk about things that I did when I was like in high school that I kind of think are cosplay, but not really cosplay, but they kind of are. But we'll get into that later. So as I said, I have some embarrassing photos, and they're not embarrassing. Honestly, I'd show anybody these photos. I really don't care. I just do not care if anybody thinks about these, but I think they're kind of cool. So one of the first costumes that I remember being as a kid, and it's something that really impacts me now, because I remember the reaction I got wearing this costume, and it was a lot of love and a lot of crazy like parents going like, that is such a cool costume. And looking at it, it's not that crazy. Like, it's not this, but it's the little things in them that make people love them. And I'm going to show you this photo first. It's not the greatest. I got a better one later. But this is me. Let me get an angle there. This is me as a spider. And I think this was senior kindergarten or junior kindergarten. I'm going to show you guys up there on TikTok. So the thing about this costume, and you can kind of see with this photo, is my mom made, where's my finger? Made 2 extra legs on either side. And those legs are connected with twine, or the thin fishing line, to my arms. So when I raise my arm, the other 2 move too. Now, this got a hell of a reaction when I was a kid, because this was like the only costume that had like moving parts on it. And that is something I remember a lot when I'm doing my costumes, especially something like Ghost Rider and Gambit. The cards is completely from that. That is the first thing I thought of when I thought of, how do I do this and have like something that's connected with spider costume? And even with something like Ghost Rider with the flames, like, it's the little things like the flames. I'm also thinking of adding another thing to Ghost Rider, which I'm not going to spoil here, but there's going to be another thing like the flames and like the spider legs that is going to make this costume go a little bit bigger and a little bit better. Overall, this costume is not that crazy. The head is the crazy part. And I remember when I did the performance at Anime North in this cosplay, my wife, love her to death, was so upset that I didn't win an award, at least for performance. And I'm like, it's jeans, it's a motorcycle jacket. It's like, that's the impressive part. The rest of it's kind of easy. But it's the little things that get the attention from the general public. Us cosplayers with each other are really impressed with the big Warhammer costumes and the big, Predators like the Geeks & Co. do. And the general public is too, but you don't always have to do something like that to get that reaction. Terrence and Phillip is another one that I always tell people, like, dude, it was a cardboard face and we got so many people wanting pictures with us. And I'm like, it's cardboard. It's literally that. It's nothing, but people love it. So this costume was definitely something that I always remember when I'm thinking of what I'm doing for my costumes. And this is another photo of it. It's a little clearer. My mom wanted to make sure that she had her makeup on when I showed this photo. So this is the only photo that my mom has in this entire show, which, by the way, my mom and I were going through old photo albums, and my mom hates getting her photo taken. So I'm going through these and I find the spider costume section and I was like, okay, give me that one. And she gives me this. And I'm like, I'm going to show this on the podcast. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm in my clown costume. And I'm like, you hate getting your photo taken, but you're perfectly fine me showing a photo of you in a clown costume on the podcast. She's like, yep. Makes as much sense as everything else. But yeah, so that is a better quality photo of myself. And yes, we do have some webbing around the costume as well. So that was the first one where I kind of was like, okay, this is really, really fun. And it's fun getting a reaction. My mom, who sewed my cosplays, was also someone who was very good at makeup, which was very important and something that I need to work more on, because I did a little bit of makeup on my cosplays when I first started, but I never really pushed it further, and I really think I should. This is the one that I always kind of show off, me as a skeleton. I believe this was grade 1 or grade 2. That is just a purchased shirt and pants, but that is a full makeup that she did, including let me see, can we get a little closer without the glare? Look at that detail on the makeup with the shading around the eyes, the sides, the crack. Kind of makes you think of why I do that cosplay more than almost anything else. I remember growing up and my mom's old boyfriend, he would always see me drawing, and I'd be drawing skulls all the time. And he's like, you just love drawing skulls. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of have a thing for it. And this might be why. But yeah, so having someone with artistic talent as a kid is very nice, because you get to use it to your advantage on Halloween, and you get to show off how good their makeup skills are. Ain't I adorable? I'm kind of adorable. But yeah, that's another one that I always remember of, even if, as Boomster says in the chat, and it is very, very true, the makeup brings it all together. And that is something that I remember very much from my in cosplay, is that makeup, paint job, and all that is going to either take your cosplay up a notch, or it's going to bring your cosplay down a notch. If you do an amazing paint job, you can hide so many bad things. You can mess up left, right, and center, but if you do an incredible paint job, it will probably save your cosplay. And on the opposite end, if you do a terrible paint job, it will knock your cosplay down so quickly. So things like makeup, things like your paint job are going to be the life and breath of your costumes. Then we got into when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came around, and that whole, karate and stuff sort of kicked into play. So then we have I think every boy at some point had the proverbial ninja costume, which this is one of those ones where I still had, I think I got rid of it when I moved out, because I got rid of a bunch of stuff, but I had that sword up until like 25, 26. Like, I had that sword in a bin for a long time because I loved that little thing. And yeah, just a simple ninja cosplay. I think she pulled that off pretty well. Probably one of the warmest cosplays I had, because all black and black gloves, but a classic that, again, I think a lot of boys had. And then we get to the theme ones. This is when we started to get into the more complicated costumes that we had to buy. And with the ninja craze came the great Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And this is a costume that it has probably been sitting in a cart on a website for 3 years. But I'm also thinking, I am past the age this person was when they played the character, and I just don't know if I should be doing. Cosplay whatever you want. It's a personal choice. I think I'm too old to do this, but Tommy Oliver from the Power Rangers Ninja movie, this was one of my favorite store-bought costumes. If you were a kid in the 90s, you knew that when you got a costume for Halloween, there is a very good chance that this is not exactly what the costume looks like in the real world. There are examples, and we will talk about it in a little bit, of getting costumes when you were a kid and you were so excited because you got to be that character. Booster Joe says, I also see the progression of posing skills. Yeah, and then guess what? I lost it as soon as I started cosplaying, and I had to relearn it all. Yeah, so really, really happy with this one, because this costume is actually pretty darn photo correct to what the movie is. I'll talk about one after the next picture where I was super excited to get the costume, and then when I actually wore it, I realized this isn't even close to what I think it should be. But yeah, this is one I've wanted to bring back and bring back, like I'd fit into it now. Get the adult version of this, which I believe is around $350 to get it custom made with the boots and everything. But this has always been the White Ranger character that I love. I love the classic look. The classic is a classic, but the movie, the Ninjetti style, has always been the one that has stood out to me more than anything else. Maybe one day I'll pick it up. Maybe if someone wants to buy it for me, that'd be nice. Yeah, right. No one's going to drop $300 on me except for family and friends. But yeah, this is one I've always loved, and I love this picture. And yes, the posing skills have gotten a little better since the first one. Now we're going to talk about one, and if my mom is in chat, because she does pop in every once in a while, this is the one that is probably going to give her the this is going to give her the biggest headache out of anything. So this is one that I clearly remember my mom spending months on this thing. Because it is a costume that we have a common interest in. And you guys don't know my mom that well, but my mom doesn't have a lot of fandom likes. Because I'm a cosplayer and because I'm a comic book fan, I love lots of comics, I love lots of movies, I love video games, There are many fandoms you can like. With my mom, she doesn't have a lot of that. She kind of likes 4 or 5 things, and that's kind of it. She's not very wanting to see a lot of new stuff that, the major things. Like, she will never watch a Marvel movie. Prime example, when the Star Wars movies were re-released in the theaters in the 90s, we went, and my mom was asleep next to me in the seat during the scroll at the beginning. She does not care about nerdy stuff. However, my mom is a music fan, and I'm a music fan because of her. And we have a love for the band Kiss. And when I told my mom that I wanted to be a member of Kiss for Christmas or for Halloween, when I told her I wanted to be a member of Kiss for Halloween, she came close to doing a backflip. She came pretty damn close to doing a backflip. She was so excited to make the costume for me. And I honestly think she did one of her best jobs in this. This was a completely custom done vest. I wore high-heeled boots for this costume. You can't really tell in the photo. And makeup and wig and everything. And that is my toy guitar from when I was a little kid. And I look, honestly, incredible for a homemade cosplay. And I wore the cosplay outside for about 15 minutes and came home. All that work for about 15 minutes, and I came home because I was not comfortable in that cosplay. I did not feel comfortable in that cosplay. This is way before I got comfortable performing. This is way before I got comfortable being on stage. This is way before I got comfortable doing stuff like this and not really caring what anyone thinks. I was very self-conscious during wearing this costume. I also remember the night was really rainy and crummy out. But within that 15 minutes, I remember going to houses and getting reactions from people saying, "Oh my God, it looks so good. Oh my God, it looks so good." But I didn't care. I wore it for 15 minutes, and I honestly think I broke down in tears and said, "I want to go home." And my mom was really pissed because of how much work she put into it. And I get it. I completely get it. But this was one of those things that I thought I thought I would feel different in the costume. I'm doing a video actually that I'm going to post on the channel probably the next few weeks that is going to be talking about cosplay and how sometimes you don't feel like yourself when you're in a costume. Like the masks and the makeup and stuff kind of hide you and you don't feel like yourself. That is a prime example of it. Like, I don't mind walking around in that because no one knows it's me unless you know it's me. And this is one of those costumes where I should have felt that way because I had a whole bunch of makeup on. And even if my friends saw me who weren't Kiss fans, they wouldn't know it's me unless I said hi to them. But I felt so exposed in this. And yeah, I still kind of feel bad about it. I do have a Kiss costume in my head that I'm going to be doing sort of as in, I don't want to say it, I don't know, as in I'm sorry for this, but kind of as in I'm sorry for this. But yeah, this is one that I still kind of feel bad about because, yeah, thankfully, as Boomster Joe said, at least the photo immortalized the moment 100%. And that is the way my mom is. And I'm kind of that way too now when it comes to my costumes. If I get a cosplay done, I am in here against that wall with a camera set up here taking photos at least once because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know if, you go to a con and after 30 seconds it breaks and then you don't have a good photo. I try and get them as quick as I can so I at least have a document that, hey, at one point it looked good. So, but that is kind of, those are the Halloween costumes that I remember very vividly that kind of shaped my cosplay career. And the one that we kind of talked about, I don't have a photo of it because I was a little older at that point, and I didn't really see a reason to take a photo of it, but now I kind of wish I did. When I was probably around 12, I was obviously, with most kids, I was a big comic book fan, and I was loving the X-Men animated series, so I wanted to be an X-Men, and the one that every kid wanted to be was this guy, Wolverine. Now, this is not me. This is not the costume that I had. However, this is a good example of the costume and kind of what it looked like when I had mine. The only difference is if you were a kid and you got these claws, I am super jealous because these are actual claws. Like, these are plastic, hard claws. The claws that I had on mine were about half the length, and they were like stiff fabric. And the mask was not plastic like this one. It was a fabric mask. And this was the cosplay, and I mentioned it earlier, that I think the first time I hit that moment where I went, this can't be it. Like, this can't be the best costume you can get or you can make, because I was not happy with this costume in the least. But I thought, maybe this is the best I can do with my skill level and what. Obviously, there was no way my mom was going to make something like this. But it was kind of like, all right, well, I kind of feel like Wolverine. I kind of look like him. Again, these kids, this is pretty darn good in my opinion. But back then, this felt like if you've ever seen clips of old Halloween costumes, like 60s, 70s versions of costumes, like I remember clearly seeing a photo online of what the Halloween costumes were for like Jaws when it came out, and the Halloween costume for Jaws was literally a Jaws t-shirt. It was a t-shirt with the shark head on it. That was the costume, and that's how that Wolverine costume felt. Looking at them now, I'm like, man, the old ones were terrible. These ones are actually not too bad. But the last costume I remember my mom doing, and I love this cosplay, and this is one I really wish I did get a photo of, because my mom worked her ass off on this thing, and it was kind of under protest, I'll be honest. By the time it was around 1997, 1998, the world of wrestling had kind of taken over my life. I became a wrestling fan around summer of 97, and from then till about 10 years ago when I started cosplaying, that kind of was my life. And even now, like I'm a wrestling historian. I could tell you so many things about wrestling because I've just watched and learned so much about it. But when that fandom first started, I loved Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was the guy that he epitomized wrestling to me. And they didn't make wrestling costumes back when I first started watching. So I begged and pleaded and did everything I could to get my mom to make me a Shawn Michaels costume. And she did, under protest a bit. So I remember that the biggest concern with my mom was, at this point I had to have been like 10. And as a 10-year-old, I didn't look like that. I didn't look even close to that. So my mom tried her darndest to make her version of this. The version that she made for me was not the black pants. She made the classic red pants with the hearts on it. Shawn Michaels, clearly, if you know Shawn Michaels, on the butt of his pants, at least some of them, he has the word sexy boy across the bottom. I was not getting sexy boy across the bottom of my 10-year-old tights. And Alex, so you didn't go in spandex. I did go in spandex. However, they were red spandex with red running shoes. They were not wrestling boots. And I did not go shirtless. This, around the end of 97, was when Shawn Michaels and Triple H formed DX. And I wanted a DX shirt. And once my mom knew what DX was and what their rep was, hell no are you getting a DX shirt, because I was borrowing and pleading trying to get her to buy me a DX shirt to wear to school, and that was not happening, because if you don't know, the original DX shirt is just DX on the front, and on the back it says 2 words, suck it, which I was not wearing to school, or I would have got killed, even though all of us were doing the crotch chop in front of everybody. So my mom made her version of it. And again, my mom did everything in her power to make it the best she could. But the DX shirts were black and with white writing. However, she did not have the capabilities to get a black shirt and put white writing on it. We did not have crickets and stuff back then. So she got me a white t-shirt with black writing, which kind of frustrated me, being a wrestling fan, that it wasn't perfect. And underneath the shirt, she glued on pecs and abs to the shirt. So I had bony thin arms like I do now and a giant chest and six-pack, which looked hilarious probably. And I wish I had a photo of it, but I remember wearing it to school and I thought I looked great. But I do remember getting a little bit of comments being made fun of me, and that just kind of comes with the territory. Again, as I've said on the podcast and I've said on social media many times, I'm a kid of the 90s. I've been made fun of 1,000 times worse than what anyone can say on social media. I am bulletproof almost at this point. So yeah, I clearly remember wearing that. And by the way, I do not have luscious locks like Shawn Michaels has, so I had a brown wig that did not look like that, but it was the best you could do at the time. Shinobi said Jai Gonzalez type outfit. Yeah, close. Kind of close. Although I didn't have his height, so it would have looked even funnier on... I didn't hit my growth spurt. And I say growth spurt, I'm only 6 foot. I didn't hit a growth spurt till like early high school, so I was short until then. But yeah, so Shawn was the one that I think nowadays I kind of look at my cosplays and I go... I remember my feeling, the pants I loved, I remember getting the shirt and going, okay, the shirt's white with black writing, it should be black shirt with white writing. That's something I've got to remember. I got to remember that, because that's a detail that I wouldn't be happy with if I got the costume either paid or I made it myself. So I really made sure to remember the details like that matter. And I've noticed that when I've tried to do group cosplays with people in the past where they've done a version of a character and I like it. And again, nothing against anybody who I've done a group cosplay with, but I do months and months of prep and months of builds, and people have lives and people have things that are more important than cosplay, and they'll put the amount of effort that they have into it. And I'm like, no, it needs to be perfect. And I think the Shawn Michaels cosplay is kind of the start of that To a point, annoying criticisms I have about my cosplays of like, nope, this one little thing needs to be absolutely perfect. Although no one will freaking see it and no one will care. I'll know it's there and I will care. So yeah, the Shawn Michaels one was a fun one, but this was probably the last costume that I remember wearing as a regular Halloween costume. I do remember taking probably middle school and high school I had the real cosplay, but middle school I remember taking off, and I wasn't really going out for Halloween. However, just before I went to middle school, I think it was in grade 5, I was still in my wrestling fandom and loving, especially watching old school WWE and WWF, and I became a big fan of Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior, and he was just an incredible, crazy-looking guy, and someone that I kind of idolized for a little while because when I was growing up, my mom was a former fitness trainer, so she was in the basement all the time working out. So seeing, her having Muscle Mag magazines and, bodybuilding posters and stuff, I grew up seeing body types like that. So seeing somebody like the Warrior being, 500 pounds of muscle was really cool to me, and I sort of aspired to be something like that because that's what I saw growing up. And I aspired to have a fun look and a cool look like the Ultimate Warrior. However, I did not think of logistics when I was doing this. So there was one night I remember I was downstairs. I had the Best of Survivor Series video, and I had it on the VCR. I was playing it. I was wrestling with my wrestling buddy, and I decided I'm going to make myself look like the Ultimate Warrior. And I remember picking up my markers, and I remember my mom, again, fitness trainer, had a big, giant, full-length 6 foot by 6 by 6 by 8, no, 8 by 8 mirror in the basement. And I remember walking up to it, and I remember drawing that face paint. I got all the colors, and I'm sitting there, and I finished that, and I'm just that exact color scheme too. Orange, pink, green, black. I'm snarling in the mirror. I'm ready to go. I run over to my wrestling dummy. I'm throwing them all over. I'm kicking the crap out of them. I'm having a great time for hours and hours. All right, I'm done. Time to go wash this stuff off. Maybe I forgot that the markers I was using were not washable. Maybe, thankfully, this was like a Friday night, because all of Saturday and most of Sunday, I pretty much had that face paint or a rough version of that on my face because I had used regular Crayola markers that were not washable because the regular washable ones didn't kick in until I was stopped using them. So yeah, that face paint kind of stayed on my face for 24 hours at least. And my mom and I were scrubbing like crazy trying to get that face paint off. Really learned a lesson at that point. Read the directions and read little things like that before you get too deep into it, because could be a problem if you don't do it properly. But yeah, that's kind of the costume side of it. But kind of going with the warrior thing, I skipped, as I said, that middle school area of 6, 7, and 8. It wasn't until I got to high school that I kind of got a little bit more, a little back into costuming and Halloween, and I will talk about the thing that sort of cemented that. But there was, when I was in high school, there's a lot of people I've talked to over the years who have been like, I've been that outcast person. And I'm not saying they're not. They probably are. And we all kind of know that person or were that person that did the odd things. Whether you're, the kid in a small town and you're the goth kid, or you're really into anime when anime is not a thing. Like, I really remember growing up being a wrestling fan and being a Kiss fan and being a comic book fan before all that stuff was popular. So there was a lot of jokes, a lot of heckling, and I just kind of got used to it. But I did not really help myself that much, because when around 2000 came around, there was a wrestler, and I should have grabbed a freaking photo of it, called Rob Van Dam. And Rob Van Dam became my favorite wrestler ever because of his costumes. His costumes were sort of spandex leotards that were airbrushed. And they were airbrushed with like dragons and yin-yang symbols and all these really cool looks. And he was also an amazing wrestler, but the art of his costumes were amazing. And I loved him so much. But as with most things, you just couldn't get that stuff in the real world. Nowadays, you can get an airbrush and do it your own and da-da-da-da-da. Back in the day, you couldn't. But what you could do was you could get a white shirt and you could get a bunch of Sharpies and you can make your own Rob Van Dam shirt, and you could then wear it to school because you think you look pretty damn cool. And these are, by the way, they are pink because they got thrown in the wash because after wearing them for so many days, they had to get washed. But obviously they didn't get sealed, so the red ran through all of them. And I say all of them because one person said that looks really cool. And I took that and ran with it. And I ended up making a whole bunch of these that I wore to school regularly. And you might be wondering, MVD. Yes, that is Mike Van Dam, not Rob Van Dam. That is my little thing. I made a whole bunch of these that, so when you say you're the nerd and you're the geek and you're the outcast, I'm right along with you folks, because I had all of these that and this is one actually I'm really proud of. This one personally. I'm a Tommy Lee fan, and there was an album he made called Tommyland, and I stole so much of his artwork and made my own version of his shirt that I think is pretty darn good. And then of course we get into the final one, which this was the time where I became a Metallica fan, and I made a Saint Anger shirt, which I didn't wear a ton of because not many people like the album. But yeah, so that I kind of consider that cosplay because I was wearing that to school and thinking I was Rob Van Dam and, doing spin kicks and stuff. That was when I kind of got back into the costuming thing because I was getting some reactions from that, some positive and some negative. But it was starting to become fun again, and I was starting to enjoy doing little things like that. And it wasn't long after that my mom came home from work one day and said she went to the mall, and while she was there, she picked up this guy. And this is my first Michael Myers mask. And this was made, let me see, this was a 2000 Dawn Post Studios. Let me see if we can zoom that in. 2000. So this is over 25 years old, and this sort of became my costume for every Halloween for the next 15 years, kind of, till about, around 2013, 14, 15 almost. I wore this every single Halloween, and I loved it. I absolutely love it. I still love this mask. It is starting to age a bit. The eyes are starting to dry out a bit. But honestly, after 25 years, it's actually held up pretty good. But yeah, this sort of started it because I remember walking down the street in this costume and people crossing the street and not wanting to get close. And I'm like, oh, they're kind of scared. Interesting. And I started getting reactions in this. And I started loving getting reactions in these costumes. And I think that is probably the thing that went, well, is there more of this? Like, it can't be just once a year. And then around 2009, we ended up going to a place called Fan Expo Canada. And that was my first Comic-Con. And that was when I walked into the con and realized, oh, wow, there's a whole ton of people who are all doing this thing that I've wanted to do and wanted to do all year long. And that is when the cosplay journey started. So it has been a very fun journey coming from the start of, starting out with really crappy Wolverine claws and an amazing Kiss costume that never saw the light of day, really, to now I've got big skull heads like that and Gambit cards and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, I think a lot of cosplayers would agree that Halloween is sort of the thing that has got us into the hobby. And I think it's really cool that we can do this stuff and do it all year long and maybe inspire some other people to say, well, I don't want to wear my costume just on Halloween. I want to wear it any other day of the year because there's a whole bunch of people out there that are doing it the same way I am and love it. So let's keep inspiring another generation. I think that's a good idea. That is it, folks. I greatly appreciate you guys coming on this little memory lane journey with me. If you guys can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, it means a lot to me. We are going to be back next week. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite franchises in video games because it needs a little more love. Because the first one got amazing, the second one was amazing, and since a movie came out, it has kind of faltered in the love of the franchise, and that is Borderlands. We're going to be talking all about my love of Borderlands, how it started, what I love about it, and what I think they need to do to kind of bring it back into fruition. I know number 4 came out, but from what I've seen, the player base has just tanked in the past couple months. It has only been out for it's been out just over a month, and after 1 month, the fan base is kind of tanked, and I think they've already put it on sale, so that is not a great sign. So we're going to talk about that next week and a whole lot more. We got a couple more episodes before the end of the year. We're going to talk about special effects. We're going to talk about practical versus CGI. We're going to talk about, we're going to do a music episode. We got one more, and then we're going to talk about the year end and what we're going to be doing in 2026, especially now that I have a good internet connection. And I think that probably means we're going to have a few more guests here on the podcast to talk about different things, because we did start a series back in the day of people trying to convince me that fandoms that I wasn't a big fan of were actually pretty good. So I think we might jump back into that and see if we can get some different people on here. But as I said, I greatly appreciate you all tuning in. If you can hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, it means a lot. I hope you have yourself a good night. If you're a wrestling fan or you haven't watched in a while, in about 2 minutes, Monday Night Raw is going to kick back on, and this is live from Madison Square Garden, and John Cena is going to be on Monday Night Raw for his last appearance on Monday Night Raw as an active competitor. So you guys should tune in because it's going to be pretty cool. It's kind of sad to see him. This will be his second to last time in the ring before he retires at the end of the year. So I'm going to be checking that out in the next few minutes. Take care, folks. We'll see you very soon. Love you all. See ya. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.